What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day of Philly Sports History for May 2nd, 2023. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. What a game. And just so much to get into and talk about. That to me was a very Celtics Sixers game. They went back and forth the entire time. It got physical. Neither team really got up by much. I think the Celtics were up at one point by 12. I think the Sixers had like a 6 or 7 point lead. But the whole time, neither team really, you felt like they were out of it. James Harden was just out of his mind. 45 points. He was 7 of 14 from three-point range. We said before the series on the Back to the Future Sixers preview that Maxey would be the X factor because of his career up until this point against the Celtics. Dropped 26. Made some pretty clutch shots when James was not on the floor. He had a couple. He was just driving the ball, scoring. So did what he needed to do. DeAnthony Melton stepped up. Those are the kind of guys that are going to have to step up if Joe's not going to play. Melton had 17. Toby had 18. Like they were doing what they needed to do. B-ball Paul Reed had a double-double, made fourth huge free throws at the end of that game to ice it, grabbed a lot of decent rebounds. I just feel like this was the best case scenario you could have for this game. Now, what do they do tomorrow night? Do they punt on the game? Because I know it was back and forth. I almost feel at this point you stole home court advantage. Rest Joe another night and bring him back into the Philly crowd. That crowd's going to be pumped up and electric anyway. You have Joe coming back for that game. I feel like the Heat are probably going to do the same thing to the Knicks tonight with Jimmy Butler being a little banged up. You went in, you stole home court, punt on the game. And it's a 7-game series. Use that to your advantage. I mean, I feel they had the best case scenario that they possibly could have had. So I don't know if it's worth to rush Joe back. And I think the Celtics came out on fire. They shot like almost 90% at one point in the first half. Like I think they started off the game 90%. I think at halftime it was 70-some percent. They came out and blitzed the Sixers, and the Sixers punched them right back in the mouth. And when you have your best player, your MVP, out, that's what you need from those guys. So overall, great game. I know Al Horford said after the game, oh, we let up defensively, this, that. And listen, it's the playoffs. These guys want to win just as much as you. We're not the Atlanta Hawks, Al. So guess what? You can't be letting up like that. So if that's the case, you got what you deserve. And I think comments like that is, to me, it's sort of like, well, yeah, that's just to make us feel like, no, you didn't let up. You underestimated them. They came out and punched you in the mouth and you weren't expecting it. Side note, and we'll talk probably more about this as the series goes on, Marcus Smart is one of those guys, very similar to PJ Tucker, that, God, he annoys me, but there's something about him that if he was on the Sixers, I would love him. Tatum, no, I want to punch Tatum in the face. He's a Duke guy, all of that. But Marcus Smart, there's just something about him that, yeah, he does those little things that it's just like, damn, and he annoys you. But if he was on the Sixers, I would be happy. So overall, good win for the Sixers. We play tomorrow night. If I was the coach, I would not play, or the team, I would not play Joe. Bring him back and let that crowd be rocking on Friday night in Philly. Side note, as much as I've ripped Doc this year for his coaching, I do have to say he nailed the rotations, made the adjustments, called the timeouts at the right spot. I love the way he coached yesterday. So I'm very, very critical of Doc throughout the season, but I need to give him his props when he deserves them. I thought Doc coached a very, very good game yesterday. So let's keep it up, Mr. Glenn. All right. It is Tuesday. That means it's time for our weekly dose of motivation/positivity. I'm very excited about this one. I follow an account on TikTok. It's called Kobe Highlight or Kobe Highlights. And they show him just sort of doing interviews and things and people doing interviews about him. But this one struck me like to the point where I saved it and emailed it to myself because I wanted to hear it or share it here. But basically in the interview, he says, failure doesn't exist. It's a figment of your imagination. What do I mean by that? He said, if you fail on Monday, it's only a failure if you decide to not progress from that on Tuesday. The worst thing you can do is just stop. And like to me, that was very, very powerful because we talk a lot, and it came up in Giannis's interview the other day, and everything. And I feel like there is something to that. Like it's okay to fail. And I think so much, especially with the way our society is today, everybody's scared to fail. Everybody's scared to mess up. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's called having a growth mindset, man. You learn from your mistakes. If you continue to do the same things and you don't learn from them, then yeah, that's failure. That's messing up. But I love that quote from Kobe because failure, it doesn't exist. As long as you're growing from something, are you failing? No, it's just the end of the day. You pick up the next day, move on, and learn from your mistakes. So all of that to say, don't be scared to take chances. Don't be scared to fail. Learn from those mistakes if you do fail, and then move on from there. All right. So, Phillies update. Tough one. Lost 13-4 to the Dodgers. But the big news is Bryce Harper will be in the lineup tonight as DH. Huge lift for this team to get their leader back. I think it's amazing what he's done. Like 160 days or whatever post Tommy John surgery, and he's coming back. So very, very excited to see Bryce back in action tonight. Too bad I probably won't see it because they're out in LA on the West Coast. But sticking with the baseball theme, on this day, back in 1908, May 2nd, 1908, the U.S. Copyright Office received the song Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Why are we talking about that? Well, the guy who wrote the lyrics, Jack Norworth, was a Philly guy. Take Me Out to the Ball Game is just a staple at a baseball game in the seventh inning for the seventh inning stretch. Now they've added God Bless America after 9/11. One thing that I'm not sure anybody knows, because I know I didn't, was the part of the song we know that we sing at the games, that Take Me Out to the... That's actually the chorus of the song. And there are two other stanzas in the song. So if you do a Google search, you'll be able to hear the original version and everything like that. But on this day in 1908, the U.S. Copyright Office received "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," which was written by Jack Norworth, who is a Philly guy. So pretty cool Philly connection there. All right, today's Sixers playoff spotlight is one of the more frustrating ones. Not going to go back that far. We're going to go back to the 2020-2021 season. That was the post-COVID, post-bubble year. They played 72 games. Sixers went 49-23, had the number one seed in the East. This was Doc Rivers' first year on the team. They had drafted Maxey. They made the trade for Seth Curry, Danny Green. They drafted B-Ball Paul. Joe averaged 28.5 points a game. In the playoffs, they beat the Wizards 4-1 in the first round. Took on the Atlanta Hawks, their old pal Trae Young, and ended up losing that series in 7 games. That was the series where Ben Simmons went missing, and all of a sudden just was 5-4. The last half of that series. Remember, they had the 26-point lead in Game 5 that they blew. And then after that, Ben Simmons was just basically, he would bring the ball across half court and then just go stand in the corner. So very frustrating because I felt like they were a good team that year. But Ben Simmons became a liability. And yes, I know he had his mental issues and things like that. It's just, man, it's a frustrating way to sort of end that season that they had played so well. They had been building up. That was sort of the year that everybody had marked on the calendar. But Sixers number one seed, second round exit in 2020-2021 in Doc Rivers' first year. But again, I'm giving Doc props for what he did yesterday. Great win. Anxious to see what they do. I don't think we'll see Joe on Wednesday night. Bryce is back in the lineup tonight. Remember, failure doesn't exist. Just keep going. Learn from your mistakes. The only time you fail is if you stop learning. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Tuesday. And until next time, I will see you when I see you.